Artificial intelligence, and specifically general artificial intelligence, is such a hot topic at the moment. We wanted to do a demo run through of actually all the specific capabilities there are in Brooklyn that are related to AI. Now, as a platform, we don't actually have a central generative AI module, even though this slide kind of gives you that impression. We actually integrate it with existing workflows and processes to ensure that we can accelerate a customer or user's experience with the platform to automate administration, etc., and deliver insight where it's required. And we do this in a number of ways. So we do it through insight automation, where we can get access to data from files or from records, and we can drive insight up to the user to allow them to interact with it. We do it in the format of virtual colleagues, where there's requirements for automation of knowledge, so responses to people asking questions. We do it through something called Chat to My series, where you can chat to documents or you can chat to a data set to extract things out of it in a certain way that will help you with your function. We have something called My AI Prompt Designer, so everything that I show you here, you can edit the prompts and tailor it to your business and your needs, which can be used to great effect, either to structure the responses differently, to change into sort of multi-language if you want the responses in multiple languages, as an example. And also then there's My Secure AI Assistant, which is a general large language model that's embedded into the platform, that's tuned to act like a supplier relationship contract manager, and you can interact with it as you would do any other large language model or generative AI system that you can make use of on the market today. But in this case, it's entirely secure. It's in the ecosystem that Brooklyn is deployed in, and none of the data actually leaves your account. It's a service account that interacts with a large language model that's literally in an ironclad box, and none of that data leaves jurisdiction or data residency issues because of GDPR, so it all stays in the location that your system's deployed. This is the Chat to My X series. In this example, it's a Chat to My contract. So what you can see here, what we've extended is the capabilities that exist within the platform relating to contract scanning and onboarding contractual documents. This is an example contract where multiple documents have been scanned in for this legal agreement, and what you can do is you can at any point engage the Chat with My contract button. What we'll have is a chat window is then passed all the details and the clauses of that contract, and what you can do is interact with that chat capability and find out information that's not standard as such. So you might want to ask it specifically, what are the deliverables from the supplier in this contract? What are the conditions of assignment or rights of assignment in this contract? And it will come back with a response, and you can discuss with it until you get to the point of that information is in the right format, structure, and tells you what you need to know. And then you've got a lot of options, from regenerating it, copying the data, emailing it out, where your system allows it, sharing it through means like WhatsApp, text, etc. You can save it as a note just for later on, or the most useful element is you can then create workflows off the back of it, actions and or risks. So for example, if I was to sit here and say, well, what conditions can I terminate this contract on? It came back with a response that I had, and I could then say to it, how do you recommend I go about executing a contract termination? And it will give you that information in the context of this contract. Once you've got that, you can then create a workflow, and you can create, for example, you can start a contract termination workflow and then actually terminate that contract with the assistance it's given you and with the information it's provided. What you can see here is where I've actually clicked that action button. You can see here it's created action with those details that is captured with the title, etc. In this case, it was about deliverables, not termination. And you can see the formatting it's done and how it's actually structured it in a very sort of aesthetic, easy to understand and read manner. This is an example of the Chat to My contract solution. What you can see here is a contract record. This is a consulting agreement with a fictional company called Bit Technicals. If you went into the actual contract item itself, you can start to interact with all the details that exist below the contract. In this case, I'll go to the contract analysis as we showed you before. These are all the clauses. You can click the Chat with My contract and you can see the number of clauses it's been passed, 776 there. I'm going to ask it what are the termination rights, as I just mentioned in my example for this contract. It's going to go away and think about it. It's provided with a response there, quite a comprehensive response, how you can terminate for convenience based against the work practice, breaching, etc. and the conditions. And from this, I have options to, as I said, copy, email, share, create as a note, or save the response as an informative note for later. In this case, I create a workflow and I want to create the contract termination option. As you can see, all the information and the structure of what was in the text comes through into that workflow. We can then create that, and then we can click go to go and manage that information. So that was the Chat to My contract capability. This is the Ask Brooklyn virtual agent. So in this case, in this example, what we aim to do is work with large companies and enterprises where they have a semblance of a SRM, so a supplier relationship management function or a contract management function, and they have a central mailbox. Or a number of our existing customers have very busy team mailboxes where they're asked hundreds of questions a month that are very simple to answer. So when are we meeting with the next supplier? What's the end date for supplier's contract? Who's looking after this agreement and this contract? All of which are held within Brooklyn. So by using virtual agents, we can then provide those non-specialist colleagues, so those that aren't SRMs, with information that's useful without inundating the team with a shared mailbox to go through and respond to, thus getting back some time to put into managing the suppliers rather than just responding to your colleagues for simple questions. We aim to look at eradicating between 50 and 75% within the first 6 months, and then towards 90% of those questions over a 24-month period. What you can see here is an interaction where users come on and ask what's contracts are with BitTech. It's gone and listed all the contracts with BitTech. You've then gone on to say, can you write me an email to my line manager Jesse that summarises this information for him, and it will do that nicely for you, and you can copy that out in the same way that was shown before. You're now going to see this in action. So the portal is secured in a different manner to the application, so colleagues can come directly into the portal as you can with normal chat systems. You'll land on here, you'll be able to have a natural language conversation with the assistant. There are different modes you can set the assistant in depending what you want to ask. This is a supplier relationship management mode, and the modes dictate what capabilities they have. So in this case, example I said before, but in this case we want to look at the user is interested specifically in the Unitech business process MSA under the Unitech contracts, and it wants to know the end date of the business process MSA. As you can see very clearly there, it's stated 2024. This is the Ask Brooklyn secure chat solution that we have embedded in the platform. Wherever you are in the system, you'll see an icon in the bottom right that is the Ask Brooklyn logo. You can click it with whatever page you're on, and the information you're looking at on that page will be, the assistant will be aware of that. We're looking at increasing capabilities to what information can be shared into the chat, and then what actions can be taken out the back of you getting to a conclusion on the chat that you want to extract something out, similar to what we've shown in the chat to my contract solution. This format can be extended and made bigger, so you can have a larger chat window. In this case, it's been asked to provide a set of slide content so that I can present to my team the details in this new contract. So the screen behind here was essentially, this is a contract profile. All the documents have been scanned, all the information's on this page further down, and you can then ask the AI to then provide you information in a shareable format and recommend that in a set of slides. I've asked it here to add in some key milestone dates. It's done so in a nice table format, and we'll show that to you in action now. Again, using the same fictional contract, BitTech Contracts Consulting Agreement, gone in there, gone to the contract profile where most of the information's held that will be useful. We engage the model, we start a new chat, we ask it a question. In this case, the same as the example, please create me a slideshow presentation. These are around 15 minutes in length that I can go and present to my colleagues and team as an overview of this new contract we've got. As you can see, it gives you the information, the outline, etc. It does remind you where you might have things that you need to tidy up, like it's picked up that there's some compliance alerts that need to be cleaned up. It's just giving you the chance to do that before the presentation. So especially if you want to get someone presenting that doesn't really know the subject matter, you can then go back and ask it to extend the information and capabilities within the description, so you can make it more verbose or more summarised, and then you have the same options around copying, emailing, and then sending that information out for use elsewhere. In this case, I've just switched to a risk. This is a risk profile, which is a list of all some risk events that have happened on the platform that have been tracked over time. What I'm going to ask it here is, can you please write up this risk event in a format that my company require me to present it to the Executive Risk Committee. So we realise that not everything's done in Brooklyn. You're going to want to take data out. So we give you the opportunity to not only bring, like, this is a template of an ERC, so Exec Risk Committee memo template. So we give you the ability to take that information out, put it in here, and essentially what we've asked it to do is provide a summary of the risk in this format. And you'll see within 15 seconds or so it's provided that information in the format you need it. So before Brooklyn, you'd have had to go out and extract the information from your risk system and write that. But with Brooklyn, it's just written this memo for you that you can extract out and copy it from the system out into a Word document, and then you've met the requirements of your team. We mentioned earlier about intelligent insights or data insights. This is an example of contract data capture. So these are fields in the platform. In this case, it's a very simple example, but contract start date. What you can do is within the platform, you can turn these things on at a field level that says we expect this data to be held in the contract. When you do that, you'll be able to get another AI agent to generate what the things are that need to be looked for in this context. So basically it says, what do you think needs to be looked for if I'm looking for a contract start date in a document? And then this helper text is sent to it as well. and it comes back and says we expect it to be in this format, we expect it to be called all these things. And when your contract is, a next contract is then run through the system, what you'll see in the platform are these kind of icons. What this means is it's scanned a contract, it's found a contract start date, it's put that date in there and saved it, so you don't have to type the metadata anymore, but it's just asking you over time just to confirm that is the right date, because there's multiple options in there. So in this case, click on that button and you'll see that there are 2 different options in there from different pages, but they are the same date. We can confirm this is the right one, and then that switched to being contract start date is accurate, and user has also confirmed this for us. As an example, take you through a few different scenarios now in the video. What you see here are the system fields I mentioned before. In this case, the name of the contract is being looked at. Its data held in contract has been set to yes, and you can see that that has been scanned and it's found that name of that contract. You can go and look at it, where it's found it in the system. Yeah, it's found that name. That's the value. Page reference is page 1, and we can confirm that, and it changes the name to what's been found in the contract. You can continue to do this for all the fields that are available. In this case, you've got address. Confirm that's the address. What you can also do is add in additional fields to be looked for after you've initially done the scans. In this case, this is contract start date, same as the example shown before. It's held in the contract. When you go back to the contracts now, you'll see there's a blue option for you to rerun metadata extraction because there's a new requirement, which is the contract start date. You reload the page and you'll have the same option with contract start date there, just to confirm that's the right start date. And by doing so, you then move from the metadata has been found and added to users confirmed. This is the risk data insight automation we showed before, but there are extra additional assistance that you can get through the platform. So not only the ability to use the chat engine to summarize the entire risk, you can on fields in Brooklyn that are, in this case, large bodies of text, you can get the AI assistant to help you write all large text fields. So in this case, what happens is it's given the background as to what you're looking at, any connected related information like the organisation or the contract. It's given all the information on this entire page. So what you can do if this was blank, in this case I'll just regenerate it, but what it will do is go away and then write, in this case, the contingency plan based on all the information it's been provided. Now, we don't expect this to be 100% accurate, but as a quality of life tool and a productivity enhancement, I know for me at least, even if it's 80% accurate, which it often is higher than 80%, 90% probably, I'd much rather than go and look at this and edit it to what I want it to be rather than have to type this from scratch. So across the platform, AI is available to not replace the human operator, but just speed them up with the summarising, wording, spell checking and creation of information that they just no longer need to type from scratch. And I suppose to put this point across a bit better, what we look at from a systematic perspective is if you consider the volume of responses you get from the AI on the right and how accurate they are on the horizontal scale here. What we typically see at the moment is you've got 5% is probably incorrect, and when we look at any incorrect finding, we typically find it's either related to the data that's been provided, so you've not put enough data in the system for it to get a decent determination, or it's prompt related in case of something in the settings, you've done something with the prompt and it's not clear as to what it needs to do. And 99 times out of 100, if we correct the data problem in the prompt, all these 5% goes away. 10% of the cases at the moment, you could argue a human response is better because it missed some nuances, but 80% of the time we're finding the response is acceptable, and 5% of the time we're finding AI is doing better than a subject matter expert. And what we need to do as models continue to improve, and we're continually upgrading our AI model, the amount that the AI is better than the human is growing over time. So it's not only becoming faster in the way it's responding, but the quality of that response is increasing as well, especially when it's tuned for the task at hand through the prompt engineering. And we need to not lose the sight of the fact that AI's strength is scale, speed and consistency and data analysis. So humans are not optimal for scale, speed and consistency. So we're left for the specialist elements where we really need to focus, and it's a real complex task. But AI is really good at this kind of information summarising, finding, insight driving, because that's what they're designed to do at scale and at speed. As I mentioned earlier on, we have the ability for you to not only use the AI, but in a no-code way, you can get access to, if you're an admin user, the console, the config for editing the prompts and what this actually returns when it's asked a question, etc. So in this case, I'm giving you an example of the prompt that's held in the contract profile that builds a contract description. So what essentially happens is it's sent all the contract information. We then basically say that We want you to look at all these clauses, we want you to analyse it, and we want you to provide a summary of what's this contract about in this following structure. And just by editing this clause here, or sorry, not this clause, this prompt, you can then get a very custom view of how your contracts are summarised and fed back to you in a consistent manner very quickly. Now this scales to multiple documents and thousands of pages, so it's a very powerful solution that you've got ultimate control over with the configuration option here.